The night Paris was supposed to crown her happiness, Claire stood beneath the Eiffel Tower, her hands wrapped tightly around the thin straps of her purse. The iron giant glittered with a million lights, a monument to love, promises, and dreams. Tourists gasped at the sight, couples embraced under its shadow, and photographers hunted for the perfect angle. But Claire wasn't looking at the tower. She was looking through it. Up, at the second platform, where her husband kissed another woman. Her breath didn't shatter. Her knees didn't weaken. The typical script of betrayal, heartbreak, tears, rage, never cued. Instead, a warmth uncoiled through her chest, slow and private, like a cat stretching in a sunlit corner. It was liberation layered over shock, a feeling she hadn't rehearsed but instantly recognized. She smiled. No one noticed. A vendor pushed paper flowers scented with artificial jasmine. A group of students shuffled past, swapping the same jokes, pressing each other into photos. Paris carried on with its arrogantly beautiful indifference, and Claire let it. She didn't take out her phone to document the kiss, though she could have. She didn't call his name. She didn't run. She watched Adrien tilt his head, she knew that angle, the practiced tenderness, and press his mouth to a stranger's. Stranger. The word floated there, almost funny. She knew the woman's name, Iris. She knew the time, 9:40 p.m. She knew the spot, the eastern side of the second platform, just beyond the viewing telescope. She knew because a week ago, someone had mailed Claire a white envelope with a single typed line. If you want the truth, come to the tower on Friday at 9:40 p.m. There had been a photo paper clipped to the note, Adrien and Iris sitting too close in a mirrored bar, their reflections doubling the intimacy. Claire had stared at it long enough for the ice in her drink to melt, the glass sweating like a summer wrist. Then she tucked the envelope into a cookbook on their third shelf, between recipes for things she never cooked for him anymore. She looked up again. The kiss broke. Adrien glanced sideways, casual and careless, like a man who liked to play with sharp objects because he liked the blood more than the blade. Iris laughed. Claire couldn't hear it, but the sound reached her anyway like heat. Claire stepped into the queue for the elevator. She wasn't going up to catch them. She was going up to say goodbye to a version of herself that had learned, over 3 years, to call a cage a home. She was going up to thank the tower for being honest, for letting the light hit the metal at such an angle that secrets had nowhere to hide. Inside the elevator, bodies pressed in soft politeness. A toddler rubbed foggy fingerprints on the glass. A couple argued in Italian about whether a proposal was best at the top or the second platform. Claire held her purse and watched the mesh of girders slide by, a ribcage around the night. She felt light. That scared her a little. Happiness shouldn't arrive like this, she thought, without warning or permission. Yet there it was, small, bright, and unashamed. The doors slid open with a sigh. The air carried metal and cold and perfume. She stepped out and blended into the moving scenery of people who had saved money and time and heartbreak for this single hour. Adrien stood where the note had promised. He had his back to her now, arm hooked around Iris's waist like a claim. He had worn the gray coat Claire once said made him look like a lighthouse keeper, solid, dependable, a man guiding ships. She had believed it then. Now it looked like costume. Claire stopped at the telescope and pretended to count the bridges on the river. She could have reached out and touched the steel. She could have reached out and touched her husband's shoulder. She did neither. She took off her wedding ring. It was a simple band chosen in a shop where the saleswoman had said, "Classic never disappoints," and Adrien had said, "We are classic." And Claire had smiled because that's what you do when you're 29 and have beams of the future pinned like photographs around your head. She held the ring between finger and thumb and felt its absence already, a pale circle of new skin beneath it. "Excuse me," someone said behind her. A man, low-voiced. "Are you using the scope?" She turned. He had a face like the city after rain, clear enough to see yourself in, a little reflective, a little sharp. Early 30s, scarf looped too loosely to be accidental. He wasn't handsome at first glance, but there was a gravity to him, the kind that makes you brace without knowing why. "All yours," she said, stepping aside. He didn't look into it. He looked at her. Not at her ringless hand, he seemed to know not to do that, but at her smile. Recognition flickered. He didn't know her. He knew that expression, rare and disobedient. "You okay?" he asked, not in the way strangers ask to be polite, but the way people ask when they're prepared for a true answer. "I think so," Claire said. "I think I'm better than okay." "Then congrats," he said, and only then did he glance past her shoulder. "And I'm sorry." She followed his eyes. Adrian and Iris were laughing again. Claire wondered what he had told Iris about his wife. The truth, probably. He had always told the truth at first and then edited it, word by word, until it became a story in which he was both victim and hero. "You know them?" she asked the man. "No," he said. "But I recognize the movement. The choreography. I've been both roles." Claire's smile reached her eyes. "Which one did you prefer?" "Neither," he said. "But the person who walks away. That's the role I recommend." He moved aside without asking for her name. She was grateful. Claire slipped the ring into her coat pocket. She watched Adrian fix Iris's hair, a move he used on everything, people, plans, rooms, that threatened to be too alive. There would be words later. He would try to make the air into his courtroom. He would call the kiss an accident. He would call Iris a mistake. He would call Claire dramatic. He would make everything small enough to fit his mouth. She took a breath and let it out slowly, like she'd been holding it since the day she said yes. And then Iris saw her. Not with recognition. Iris's gaze was the glance of someone seeking an audience, a reflective surface. Iris scanned the platform, hitching her grin tighter, confirming its brightness. Their eyes met, and Claire felt nothing but a clean click, like a lock turning. "Claire?" a voice said. It wasn't Adrian. It wasn't the man with the scarf. It came from her purse, from the phone she hadn't checked since she arrived. A text flashed on the screen from an unknown number. "He kissed me exactly where you asked? Are you here?" The cold threaded deeper. Claire looked up, found Iris's mouth forming a small O as she took a step away from Adrian, as if she'd felt the electrical tug of attention. Claire didn't move. "Exactly where you asked?" Claire typed back. "Yes." The dots arrived, jittering like nerves. "Then it's done. Are you okay?" She lifted her head and caught Adrian looking straight at her. He didn't flinch. Adrian was talented at not flinching. His eyes moved over her face the way a jeweler looks for flaws, methodically, greedily, as if any crack he found was a window he could enter through. She put the phone away. The truth had arrived like a train on time. She wasn't going to miss it. "Adrian," she said, stepping forward, voice even. He smiled, relief and strategy braided together. "Claire. What a surprise." "Is it?" she asked. Iris pivoted, eyes bright, playing innocence like a melody. Claire was close enough now to smell Adrian's cologne, cedar smoke, the ghost of early promises. She remembered how many mornings she had pressed her face into his shoulder and called it safety. "I was just," he began. "Kissing a woman exactly where I asked," Claire said, glancing at Iris, whose brave expression flickered. "Thank you for your punctuality." The man with the scarf leaned casually on the railing, a discreet moon orbiting their small storm. Adrian's smile cooled. "What game is this?" "The last one," Claire said. "The only one we needed to play in public." He hated not understanding. She watched the muscle tick near his temple, the way a storm announces itself on open water. "I wanted to see if you'd choose me when you didn't know you were being watched," Claire said. "I wanted to see if my instinct was wrong." "It wasn't." "Claire," Adrian said, soft, a tone he wore like tailored cloth. "You're upset." "I'm free," she corrected. Iris's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and then at Claire, remorse sliding into her posture like a blade being sheathed. "I'm sorry," she said, and Claire believed her in the way you believe a stranger who hands you a dropped scarf. Sorry, but not invested. You planned this? Adrian asked, the word planned curdling in his mouth as if only he were allowed to plan. Claire looked past him, into Paris, where every window told a story from behind a square of light. No, she said. I responded. Someone told me the truth. I wanted to see it with my own eyes. Adrian followed her gaze to the city as if the city could intercede. This is cruel, he said finally. Cruel is promising forever and renting by the hour, Claire said. Cruel is correcting the way someone laughs and calling it love. He blinked. You're being poetic. I'm being specific. For a heartbeat, all three of them were quiet. A nearby proposal detonated with applause. A woman cried into a mitten. Adrian reached for her hand, the gesture reinforcing his confidence that touch could reset narrative. She stepped back and the movement surprised him more than the accusation had. I'll go, Iris said quickly, and when Adrian didn't stop her, she did. She paused beside Claire, lowered her voice. You have what you need. Claire nodded. Iris squeezed her arm once and disappeared into the crowd like a coin slipped between floorboards. What do you need? Adrian asked. It was the first real question he had posed in months. Nothing from you, she said. A cab. Sleep. Papers. You wouldn't, he said, and then hearing himself sound like a character in a bad film, he changed tone. Claire, mon cœur, let's not end a life on a tourist platform. Then don't, she said softly, and walked away. Not fast. Not dramatic. Just away. She didn't look back, because the tower didn't. The tower had stood for a century and change, letting people press their stories against it for luck and visibility, and never once had it asked to be complicit. It was just steel. It was just light. It was a place to see and be seen. She had come to see, and she had seen. At the elevator, the man with the scarf was waiting, hands in pockets, gaze steady without being intrusive. Congratulations, he said again, as if repeating blessings helped them take root. For what? Claire asked. For finishing, he said. And for starting. The elevator arrived with a breath. They stepped in. The doors clicked shut, and the city reeled upward. He didn't introduce himself. She didn't either. It felt clean that way, like rinsing a glass and setting it to dry. When they reached the ground, he pressed a button and held the door for her. If you need a witness, he said. I saw enough to swear. She considered it. The cookbook with the envelope was not a legal document. But his offer wasn't about courts. It was about being seen by someone who understood the choreography. I'm Claire, she said then, because some names belong to the air. Thank you. Jonah, he said. Good night, Claire. She stepped into the wintering park, the grass dark, the sky like velvet scraped thin. She checked her phone. Another message had arrived from the unknown number. He'll come home contrite. Don't let him inside unless you want the story to reset. Claire typed. Who are you? A pause. Then, someone who chose to reset. It took me years to realize I didn't have to. She stopped beneath a street lamp and pulled the ring out of her pocket. It didn't gleam. It sat matte and obedient in her palm, a small circle that had seemed like everything once. She closed her fingers around it and felt, for the first time in months, her pulse without counting someone else's. Her phone buzzed again. If you want the rest of the truth, meet me tomorrow. 10 a.m., Pont d'Arts. Look for the red umbrella. Claire looked up at the tower once more. It glittered, in on, out off, like a huge clock deciding nothing for anyone. She slipped the ring into the zippered lining of her purse where old tickets went to sleep, and she smiled a private, clear smile. Tomorrow, she said to the air, and the city, polite, indifferent, perfect, did not argue. Chapter 2, The Red Umbrella. The morning folded open with a pale sky and a stubborn wind. Claire wrapped a scarf around her neck and walked toward Pont d'Arts, passing cafes where cups clinked and conversations braided into the comforting noise of people still believing breakfast could fix a day. She didn't check if Adrian had texted. He had. She knew his patterns, apologies threaded with equal parts nostalgia and threat, a promise to talk like adults, a reminder that divorce was drastic and love was elastic. On the bridge, artists unrolled canvases, and a man tuned a guitar to the river's pitch. Claire saw the umbrella before she saw the woman. It was read the way warnings are read, patient and hard to miss. Iris lowered it when Claire approached. Up close, without Adrian's arm around her, Iris looked younger and older both. Young in the way of people still auditioning identities, older in the way of people who have learned to schedule their mistakes. "Hi," Iris said. She didn't reach for a hug, and Claire was glad. "You texted me," Claire said. "I did." Iris's smile was wry and careful. "Before you think I make a habit of this, no. I don't. But Adrian, he makes habits for people." Claire breathed out a laugh she hadn't planned. "Yes." They leaned against the railing, the river shrugging beneath them. "I met him at a gallery opening," Iris said. "He said he loved artists who were recklessly sincere." "I thought it was the most romantic definition I'd ever heard." "It is romantic," Claire said. "He's good at being what the world wants in a room and what he wants behind a door." Iris's mouth tightened. "He told me you were separated." Claire didn't flinch. "He told me we were sacred." They watched a tourist boat slide by. People on it waved like extras in someone else's dream. "I didn't send the first envelope," Iris said. "But I sent last night's text. The first envelope came to me. Same note. Same clipped letters. It said if I wanted to know the truth, I should go to the tower and see what he did when no one was watching." "Except everyone was watching," Claire said. "Exactly," Iris said. "So I decided if this was a test, I'd be the proctor. I picked the spot. I made sure you could see." "Why help me?" Claire asked, not accusing, simply aligning the edges of the question. Iris looked at the red umbrella. "Because when someone handed me a map out, however messy, I thought, the kindest thing I can do is pass the map on." The wind lifted, and the umbrella whooped against the railing like a heartbeat. "Do you know who sent you the envelope?" Claire asked. Iris nodded. "His name is Jonah." She looked at Claire's face, saw the flinch of recognition. "Scarf? Eyes like they know the after of things?" Claire smiled despite herself. "He met me at the telescope." "He met me at a street corner 2 months ago," Iris said. "He told me he had watched Adrian do this to someone he loved once. He said he wished someone had handed him a clean exit. He said if I wanted one, he had a plan." Jonah. The word folded itself into the empty spaces of Claire's memory and fit there with suspicious neatness. Iris set the umbrella down between them, handle hooked over the railing, flag of a small country they were inventing as they spoke. "Jonah can be dramatic," she said. "He thinks every story needs a scene. He's not wrong." She looked at Claire. "Did you feel it? The moment of permission?" "Yes," Claire said, and the word was a bright coin. "Good," Iris said. "So what do you want to do now?" Claire thought of papers and packed boxes and a kitchen that still smelled like the garlic he hated when she cooked it for herself. She thought of the cookbook with the envelope in it, and of the third shelf, and of how small an object a future could become if you needed it to fit inside a line of text. "I want to end it well," she said. "And I want to start better." Iris nodded, satisfied. "Then there's one more thing you should know." Claire waited, still as a photograph. "Adrian didn't just lie to you," Iris said. "He lied to someone else. And that someone is not as calm as we are." "Who?" Claire asked. "His investor," Iris said. "And the money he used to look like a lighthouse keeper? It was a borrowed beam." The river muttered. A gull rode a sharp arc in the sky. Claire closed her eyes for a second and felt the happiness she'd claimed last night balance itself on a more complicated wire. Freedom, she realized, wasn't a door opening into a field. Sometimes it was a door opening into a hallway of other people's exits. Okay, she said, opening her eyes. Tell me everything. Iris lifted the red umbrella and began.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We've got plenty more stories coming your way.